Hola, hola, ¿cómo está mi clase favorita? Hello, hello, how's my favorite class doing? Welcome to another episode of More Than Tequila, the podcast where we explore the stories, voices, and impacts of Latinos in Canada. My name is Juan Carlos Rocha Osornio, and I'm Associate Professor of Spanish Teaching Stream at the University of Toronto. Today, I am joined by my colleague, Paula Karger. ¿Cómo estás? How are you doing?
Muy bien, gracias. Very good. Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
My pleasure. Thanks for accepting the invitation to come and talk to us about you, about your identity as a Latina. Are you Latina? Do you consider yourself Latina, or what is your connection to the Latino world, Paula?
The connection is easier to explain.
Okay.
So I was born in Argentina. My mom was born in Argentina. My siblings were born in Argentina. And I have family in Argentina. But my father was Canadian and his family was Czech.
Okay.
And my mom's parents were immigrants to Argentina from Germany.
Okay.
So it's a complicated story.
Right, right.
And in the end, I'm sort of a child of immigrants on both sides.
I see.
So I have this connection. I feel close to a lot of the Argentine culture, but I also have gaps because my mom didn't drink mate until she was in university.
Okay, okay. So how old were you when you came to Canada?
I was almost 10, but we left when I was 6. So
Okay.
we lived in Romania for 3.5 years. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So you were 10 when you came to Canada.
Yeah.
And did you grow up speaking Spanish? Is that your first language, would you say?
So
Or
this
what
is
is the situation there?
another complicated
Yeah.
situation. My mom spoke Spanish, German, and English to us.
Okay.
My father spoke English to us. So I grew up kind of with all the languages mixed.
Okay.
And I actually once volunteered for a linguistics study that was for people who had a background in Spanish, who were native speakers of Spanish, and then I was disqualified because I had this mix in my background. So it's very mixed in my family.
Okay.
With my siblings, we speak English primarily. With my mom, it switches around.
Okay, interesting. All right. Well, you are my colleague. We work together at the department here of the new Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, and Latin American Studies. And you teach Latin American Studies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell us what courses you are teaching?
Yeah, happily. So right now I'm teaching LAS 200 and LAS 201, which are both the introductory courses to Latin American Studies. So it's sort of the gateway course into the program.
Okay.
Last semester I also taught LAS 350, which is Indigenous Realities in Latin America. So very focused, this right now very focused on Peru, but really meant to talk about Indigenous life in Latin America.
Mm-hmm.
Let me think. Next year I'll be teaching Latinos in Canada, I believe.
Great.
So it's been a bit of a mix.
Awesome.
But I'm primarily, guaranteed tuteaching LAS 200, which is the introductory course.
Okay, okay. And how did you end up studying all of this? Why Latin American studies? Why Spanish and all of the stuff that we do here at the department?
Yeah, it's also a good question. So I had Spanish growing up, but it was sort of Spanish at home.
Mm-hmm.
And so it wasn't a very advanced level. So already in my undergrad, I started taking Spanish language courses to improve my Spanish,
Mm-hmm.
and be able to speak more correctly and not just about domestic things.
Right.
And during that time, I did a 1-month study in Granada, Spain.
Mm-hmm.
And I fell in love with the mix of cultures, with
Right.
seeing the Christian influence, the Muslim influence, the Jewish influence. I thought it was amazing. And that led me to studying medieval Iberia.
Okay.
So when I started my grad studies, I went to comparative literature where I had done my undergraduate as well,
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted to study this mix of cultures. But I was primarily focused in Iberia. And as I was studying, I encountered texts that essentially traveled across the Atlantic to Latin America, really to Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
and ended up much more in Latin America than I had
Okay.
originally planned.
Okay.
So I actually, when I began my graduate school, I thought I'm never studying Latin America, and I'm not studying the colonial period because those are really complicated, and I want to study Iberia. And then my research took me to Latin America and the colonial period, and I love them both. So
Right.
it was actually really good for me.
Okay. So you went to Western, I understand. You did your undergraduate at Western University,
Yes.
which is the same university that I went to, but for my PhD. What did you study there in your undergrad, though?
I did what was called at the time the Scholars Electives program,
Okay.
which let you combine different degrees. We didn't have majors or minors at the time.
Mhm.
I don't know if they do now, actually.
Okay.
But you were sort of solidly in one program or another, and so I chose that program because I could combine what became biochemistry and comparative
Biochemistry.
literature.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's very interesting. I think that you're the first person that I've met that's been able to incorporate, the sciences, that aspect, and then combine it with the humanities. So that's pretty cool.
I loved it, so I couldn't let go of it.
Right. Awesome. And then you did your master's where?
I did it here at UofT.
Here at UofT
in
and
comparative literature.
In comparative literature, okay.
And my PhD as well.
And your PhD,
Yeah.
the same. Okay. Now, Mexico, I guess you've been to Mexico before. How is it different or similar to Argentina, for example?
Ooh, so I should say my experience in Mexico is primarily in the Yucatan.
Mm-hmm.
I finally went to Mexico City this past year, so
Okay.
I now have that. But I've mainly spent time in Yucatan because that's where my research
Of
took
course,
me.
right.
So that is very different from what I know of Buenos Aires. I was actually born in Cordoba, but my family's in Buenos Aires.
Okay.
And Buenos Aires is a big city. It's, not a lot of natural areas nearby, no ruins
Right.
beyond, the last 500 years.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of indigenous people on the street. Whereas Yucatan, as I'm sure you know, there's ruins everywhere.
Mhm.
There are a lot of Maya people or Maya descendant people.
Right.
The city, there are cities, of course, but not as big as Buenos Aires, not big
Right.
metropolitan cities. And culturally, I think that makes a big difference.
Of course.
Partially, well, the stereotype of Argentines being so proud about being European.
Is that
I
true,
think.
would you say?
Depends on who you talk to.
Right.
But that's always been the running joke in my family.
Okay.
That the Argentina thinks that it's European. I think mainly Buenos Aires.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But if you look at the demographic, because of all the immigration and because a lot of indigenous people who were originally there were killed, it is
Right.
very European.
Right.
Whereas in Yucatan, at least, there's still a large population of people who have remained and who
Mhm.
continue to live, and so it's a very different culture, I think.
Right. Okay.
Even the language, actually, I go to a Mexican restaurant and I don't understand half the menu items.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now, you're in your courses here at UofT in Latin American Studies. Who are your students for the most part? Are they actually Latinos, or you have a combination, or who are your students in LAS?
In LAS, primarily it's students who have some connection with Latin America.
Okay.
Many have family from there or who came to Canada when they were young.
Mm-hmm.
Some come directly from Latin America.
Okay.
They did high school there, or they came to Canada at some point through high school. And then there are some who are, grew up in North America, like in Canada or the United States, and then either were interested or had found who studied there or traveled there and are actually very, very informed, but want to learn more on an academic level.
Right.
So the majority are people who, right now, who are in some way connected.
Okay.
Some people are taking it, especially this semester. I had a lot of people say they just were curious about it,
Right.
so they came. I've been part of Latin American Studies for many years, and when I began, the proportion was a little bit different. We had still many students who were actually had some kind of tie to Latin America, but a greater proportion of students who just were taking it out of interest.
Mm-hmm.
But it's become more students who are in some way connected.
Connected to Latino.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I understand that you've invested quite some time in experiential learning. You've taken students to Peru, right?
Yes.
So what's that been like?
So I have to credit two other colleagues with this because Professor Rivas, Victor
Mhm,
Rivas, and
right.
also Catherine Sawyer, who's a
Mhm.
graduate student in our department.
Mm-hmm.
They're integral to this, and actually they did the first moves towards this. This came out of the course. So this is the Latin American reality, or Indigenous Realities in Latin America course. And the first year we taught it, there was no experiential learning because it was the first year we were teaching the course. We were
Right.
still sort of finding our grounding. And after that first year, we said, there has to be an experiential learning component. How can we, as non-Indigenous people or living outside of Latin America talk about this without actually the people representing themselves.
Right.
But I graduated at that point.
Okay.
And then it was COVID.
Mm.
So the project took a little bit longer to develop. And in that time, Catherine Sawyer came into the project and worked with Professor Rivas on it. So I have to credit that they did a lot of the groundwork, and the majority of the groundwork, and I kind of came in to help out. And that's been a really interesting experience on multiple different levels. I mean, one is, I think the most rewarding part is seeing what the students here and there get out of it.
Right.
Just seeing the interactions between people and the knowledge exchange. It's really exciting. The challenging parts are always funding.
Funding,
As
right.
you can imagine, funding.
So do students pay for their entire trip, or how does that work? In
No.
case somebody that is watching us and may be interested in going there, taking that course and having that experience, which I think is very valuable. What can you tell us about that?
So what we've done is we found funding at UofT through different grants. There's an Indigenous Course Modules grant that you can apply for. There's also the Pedagogical Innovation and Experiential Learning Fund. There was a Global Classrooms Fund that we applied for. So we found a few different programs that gave us funding to enable this. And then students didn't have to pay a significant amount. They have to pay $200, which is a requirement of the Experiential Learning office here. And then because of the way that this program works, we're working with partners there. We're not just coming in and sort of demanding what we want.
Right.
And one of the things that they asked us was to bring towels for ourselves to use and sleeping bags, which then we leave there as a donation.
Okay.
So students buy those things as well. And then anything else they want to bring, it's up to them. But in terms of tickets and lodging, they don't pay for any of that. Food, it's only
great.
extra expenses plus the $200 and the towel and the sleeping bag.
Okay. How many students have you taken there, or has
We
this
have enough funding for 8 usually.
8 students? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's great. And you guys go to what parts of Peru?
We go really, because it's indigenous realities, we go first to Cusco. We land in Cusco.
Okay.
We spend a day in Cusco just partially acclimatizing to the altitude. And just recovering from the travel and seeing Cusco, right, to understand a little bit what the tourist industry is like in Cusco. And then we go to a town called Pumacanchi, which I don't remember now. I think estimates are between 6,000 and 8,000 people in that town. And it's primarily Quechua speakers who live there.
Okay.
And then we do activities in that town for the rest of the time, and then we come back to Toronto.
Is it 1 week that you guys spend
It's 1
there?
week, yeah. We go over reading week.
Okay, okay. Do you speak any Quechua?
I do not.
No.
I can say Ayanchu, which
Okay.
is hello.
Okay.
Or how are you? Ayanchu, yeah.
Ayanchu. Okay, great.
No, Catherine Sawyer, who's the person who's been really, she's the Quechua speaker.
Okay. Oh, nice. Interesting. All right. And are you planning to continue with this trip maybe in the future?
We'd like
Are
to,
there plans to continue with that?
We'd like to. Really, it depends
Right.
on funding.
Of course.
That's the biggest obstacle, is just because all the grants that we found are have an expiry date. So eventually then you have to find more funding from somewhere else, and you start losing sources. So that's our biggest challenge.
Okay.
But as long as we can, we will continue it. Yeah.
Right, right. Now, do students have to speak Spanish in order to go? They don't have
No.
to, right?
No,
Okay.
it helps, of course, because
Mhm.
most people there don't speak English.
Right.
But if they don't speak Spanish, we'll do our best to translate. We found groups are the students who go are very kind and help each other as well. And now with the way our technology works, many people are just using their translators on their phones.
Right, right.
So,
Okay.
But it's not a requirement.
It's not a requirement.
No.
Okay, so don't be afraid of going there, right? As part of the class, you don't have to know Spanish. It'll be helpful, right? You also teach Spanish, Spanish for beginners.
Spanish for beginners.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can also take Professor Karger's Spanish class.
Spanish 101 next fall.
Next fall, 101. Now you're teaching 102?
102,
102, right. Okay. Now, these indigenous realities, right? It's called indigenous realities, the course. What are they? Can you tell us a little bit more?
I mean, we have 12 weeks to talk about them, and it doesn't feel enough. So,
Right.
So
Just to summarize, like, what would be like one of those realities of the indigenous people of Peru?
I think I think the big takeaway for me
Mhm.
is just that there's no way to generalize them.
Right.
People living in this town in Pomacanchi who are Quechua speaking don't have the same experience as the Maya people living in Valladolid, for example, in Mexico. But then there are other things that are very similar, like some of the challenges and the prejudices, the lack of resources that are allotted to them. Those things are in common, but then the cultures are also different. So that's, then there are people who are living in the cities whose experiences are a little bit different. So I think even that term indigenous, it's not accepted equally across all of Latin America.
Right.
The people I know, like our main contacts would say, no, we're Quechua speakers, that's Quechua hablantes, we're not indigenous. Right? It's because it's got a very negative connotation to it. Whereas other areas I've heard people have no problem with it. So I think in the course we try to explore all those different realities, and we also look at some of the socioeconomic realities, such as earning a living and what are the dynamics in a community and across families. We've actually, for right now, because we're doing this experiential learning component, part of it is the trip, but a large part of it is also in the class itself. We coordinate with our colleagues there, and they come and talk with our students for about an hour on select weeks about topics that they think are important. So we said, when we started collaborating, we said, what would you like us to know about your experiences? And they said, well, we should talk about this and this and this. And so that's part of what guides the course.
Okay.
And so some of the topics have been the road system. There's a really intricate road system in Peru, an ancient road system from the Inca period. We've talked about family, for example. So yeah, really, we kind of follow their lead a little bit.
Okay.
And then we supplement with our sources that we know of and our conversations. But what comes out of it is really that there are similar challenges because of similar histories, but there's also very individual experiences, and some of those challenges really are structural.
Okay. Now, just some months ago, I think on the news, I was watching that Machu Picchu was closed because there was something going on. Do you know what I'm talking about? There was some protest. What was going on in Peru?
The president was recently replaced.
Okay, it's been replaced like several times,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, I think we're on. I think we're at the 8th president in 10 years.
8th president in 10 years.
I think if I got my numbers correct. So it's been very unstable. Machu Picchu keeps coming up in the news as being closed and not being closed because with so much tourism, it's being damaged.
Right.
And so there's constantly talk about closing it, but it's also a high source of revenue.
Of
so
course.
It's not actually being closed yet.
Right.
There's been an issue in Cusco about the airport in Cusco is quite small for the number of tourists who come.
Right.
So there's been conversation about creating a new airport, but then local people don't really want it because of where it would be placed. So so far I don't think there's been any change, but there's this Machu Picchu is kind of a point of tension in different ways.
Okay. But fortunately, you guys have not had any difficulties when you've been there, right, with the students and stuff.
No,
like
but
that.
we don't go to Machu Picchu actually.
Right. Okay.
It's you have to devote about 3 days, and we only have a week.
Okay. Yeah. That goes by fast, I bet.
Yeah. And we want to see what people. Machu Picchu is amazing, but it's a tourist site,
right.
And there are Quechua hablantes who are there working. So you could still go and talk to local people, but we're also looking at just what is most people's lives like.
Right. Now, back to Canada. As you know, Latinos, we're not at the point like in the United States with Latinos, our main component of the population there. But do you think that the Latino population will keep growing here?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
You think so? Why? What's going on?
Partially, the United States is becoming a less and less easy place to be if you're Latino or from elsewhere as well. So I think it's not as appealing a destination anymore. It's not as easy. Not that it was ever that easy, but it's becoming harder.
Right.
And I just have in Toronto. I've been here now for quite a long time, and the number of Latinos people here is much, much higher than it used to be.
Right.
I hear Spanish in the street much more than I did when I first moved here.
Yes.
I see more Latin American stores. Even when I came, it was not so easy to get Argentine products.
Mm-hmm.
It's still not as great as getting Mexican products,
Right.
but it's better than it was. So that's showing a change. So
Right.
so I think unless our immigration laws change,
Right. Right.
I
Right.
think that we'll keep seeing more and more Latinos.
Exactly. So when you came to Canada, you came specifically to Toronto, or you've been in other places in Canada?
No, well, my family moved to Mississauga when I first came,
Okay.
and so we came to Mississauga. We moved around a little bit in Mississauga.
Mhm.
We left for a year to Russia.
Okay. To
Um,
Russia.
To Russia, yeah.
Okay. Wow. What part of
Um,
Russia?
To Moscow.
To Moscow.
yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we came back here to Mississauga, and then I left for university, and then I left to travel for a while, and then I came back to Toronto proper for my program.
Okay. Okay. Wow. So
yeah.
you've been on everywhere, right?
That's
Pretty much. Yeah. Interesting. Now, what do Latinos bring to Canada
Oh, that's
besides
Besides-
salsa and tacos and all of that? What do you
Tango.
think? Right, tango. Mm-hmm.
I mean, actually, it's kind of nice to see other parts of Latin America being represented because
Mhm.
Mexico has dominated so much because of the proximity.
Of
no?
course, right. It is the largest
Mhm.
group, right, out of the
As
Latin
far- yeah.
American, right, the diaspora.
Yeah, it's the
Mexicans are the, of
closest.
course, because it's close, right. Mm-hmm.
But what do Latinos bring? I mean, there are things that even though I didn't live in Buenos Aires that long, there are things that I miss about the culture. Like, just people are so warm.
Right.
I go to my I mean, it's not just my family, but even when I was in Spain, it was so easy to meet people, to make friends, to connect with people, and it's not that it's impossible here, but I find it harder in Canada.
Right.
At least in Toronto. I shouldn't speak for all of Canada. In Toronto.
Right, right.
So I think there's a lot of, I think, friendliness but warmth that
Right.
Latinos can bring. I also think there's different perspectives. One of the things I love about the LAS class is that we get to hear from people from all over
Exactly.
and all their different perspectives. So so we get such a dynamic conversation
Mm-hmm.
and really just great ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that's what having people from different places, Latin America or elsewhere, brings. But I'm
Mhm.
happy to see the Latin American contribution.
Right.
So, and I think also it's important because this is going to turn more serious now.
That's what we want.
But yeah, but I don't think that a lot of Canadians recognize how Canada is involved as a country in Latin America, and we're actually really, really integrally involved. We tend to think of the United States as the big sort of force in Latin America. It's having
Mhm.
intervened, toppled governments, set up dictatorships. But Canada's the #1 mining company in Latin America.
That's true. That's true. Yes.
And that has a lot of repercussions and a lot of. I mean, we have the biggest mining conference in the world happens here every year and happened just a few weeks ago.
Mhm.
So I think maybe having a little bit more representation from Latinos might make Canadians aware of their own involvement globally.
Right. Now, how do you think we can have more representation of Latinos?
This is a great start.
Right, right,
Doing this.
right. Yeah, exactly. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to, show that we're here, right? For a number of reasons, we're trying to. We're trying to tell you it's not just tequila, right?
Yes,
It's not just
exactly.
mate. It's not just the Katrina that you can see right behind Paula's back, right? We're more than that. A lot of things. We contribute a lot. It's not easy, right, to come to Canada, to settle in Canada. But nonetheless, we're here, right? Now, in my case, it's been 17 years. I'm Mexican, as you know. Everybody knows, right? My office is very Mexican. But it's still, it's Mexico is always going to be part of me, right? And I'm very, very proud of being Mexican, and particularly when it comes to teaching, Spanish, my native language, history of Mexico, the course that I teach. I have a lot of pride in that, right? So, yeah, Latinos bring a lot of good things, we would
Yes.
say, right? So, do you consider yourself a warm person? Because oftentimes the people that have come to the show, they say that they struggle with interacting with Canadians. Sometimes they think that they are too cold, right, compared to Latinos. Now, in your case, being born in Argentina, but having moved around, many different places, many different countries, would you say you consider yourself a warm person?
I mean, it's hard to judge from within oneself. I also have a Czech background and a German background. But I guess based on what I've seen in my interactions with Canadians, when I think I'm being friendly, people think I'm being more than friendly often.
Okay.
And I don't realize that it's happening. So that makes me think that maybe I am
you are
warmer
right.
because, in my mind, oh, we're just being friendly, we're just talking. And then they think it's a much bigger commitment than I intended. And on several different ways I've seen that happen.
Oh, really?
Where I've miscommunicated unintentionally because what I understood was the sort of regular interaction was not considered that here.
Okay.
So I guess maybe yes.
Okay. Could you elaborate a little bit more, maybe an example of how that has happened?
I think probably the clearest example is someone I knew. I mean, we just every night we were working together. Maybe once a week we saw each other because of working together, and I was going to be going on a trip, or I can't remember, maybe he was going on a trip, I don't remember, but I just thought, oh, we're not going to see each other for a while.
Right.
And I just gave him a hug without thinking.
Right.
And then that was, I should not have done that. That was a mistake. It was read completely differently. For me, it was just a goodbye hug.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Was that a Canadian, like?
There was also immigrant, but Asian.
Asian.
And had been living here for a long time.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. Those things are. I know. I've been there. Don't feel bad. Oh yeah, many times. And that's what we also try to teach our students, right? When we teach language, it's not just about grammar. It's these cultural aspects that are very important, right? So if they come to Mexico and they end up meeting my mom, right? They have to address her as usted, instead of ¿Cómo estás? ¿Cómo está, señora? Right? Otherwise, my mom is going to think that I didn't teach them proper Spanish and that they're rude, right? So these codes are very, very important.
And very difficult in Latin America because if you come to meet my mom, she'll be very uncomfortable with usted. Don't call her usted.
Yeah.
Like she's you would call, but she would call you. I'm sure she's older than you are. You would be usted to her because you're a professor.
Oh,
but you shouldn't be calling her usted even though she's older because she's uncomfortable with it.
Okay.
So it's also difficult across Latin America. And
absolutely.
I mean, in Argentina, I've never heard anybody call their parents usted. But in Ecuador, that's very common.
It's
in Mexico
common.
too.
Yes, very common. Yeah, my uncles, I could not refer to them as tú. ¿Cómo está usted, tío, tía? Yeah. So yeah, those are important aspects of learning a language, right?
Yes.
It's not just the drilling, the verbs, the conjugations, all of that. It's more than that. So in your case, being a speaker of Spanish, but having left Argentina at the age of 6, right? You arrived in Canada at 10, but before that you traveled to other countries. Have you struggled with a particular aspect of Spanish, whether it is grammar, maybe the subjunctive? Or is there
Subjunctive, definitely.
Yeah? Yes. Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Part of the problem for me has been sort of I guess, uneven engagement a little bit. When I was in Granada and I was speaking all the time, and then I would come home and speak with my mom, but then I'd be in other areas and I wasn't speaking Spanish. And then I traveled and went to other countries where also Spanish was not spoken. So, some things that I learned, if you don't keep practicing, you start forgetting.
Right.
So subjunctive is one of the ones that's more complicated and then it's easier to, so I had to work quite a bit harder on subjunctive.
Right.
Partially because I was going in and out a little bit of Spanish.
Right.
And then I was learning Yucatec Mayan for a while. So even though Spanish was around and I was using it, then I had to really focus on Yucatec Mayan, which has a very different structure.
Right.
So I also, again, was trying to be more immersed in that language, which makes it easier to kind of forget the intricacies, I guess, of another language. The other thing that's been challenging is my appearance. and my way of being.
Tell us more about that.
I obviously don't look stereotypically Latina. I mean, I look a lot like my dad, who's Czech.
Okay.
People tell me I look like my mom a bit, but I think I look a lot like my dad.
Okay.
And my coloring is my dad's coloring, and I look a lot like my dad. And so I've been in situations where I come up to a conversation where people are speaking Spanish, and I join the conversation, and the person who doesn't know me switches to English. And everyone says, oh, no, she speaks Spanish, it's okay. And the person looks a little bit doubtful, but then continues in Spanish. And then somehow in the next 5-10 minutes seems to forget and goes back to English. So it's odd because I was fine, I understood everything, but my appearance, people read as I'm not Spanish. And in Buenos Aires too, I mean, I didn't grow up there for most of my life, so I think people move differently, they occupy space differently depending on which cultures they're in, and so people know right away I'm not actually living there and haven't grown up there. My accent is, I mean, I've said a word to an Argentine friend and she said, I haven't heard that word in 20 years yet, because I learned it from my mom and she left years ago.
Do you remember that word?
Was it matricularse? Maybe?
Matricularse?
Yeah.
To enroll?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I think I said me matriculé en no sé qué. And she said, oh, registré. Look at nadie dice matricularse.
Okay.
But and then I'll come back to my mom and say a word and she says, what?
Right.
I never heard that word before.
Okay, yeah.
So I've been asked about my identity in different occasions, and ultimately what I feel is I'm mixed.
You're mixed.
Yeah. And so here I fit in very well because a lot of people are mixed. A lot of people come from different places.
Right.
But if I go to Germany, where my grandparents are from, I'm not German.
Okay.
But I am German.
Right.
You know, I grew up with Sachertorte. If I go to Buenos Aires, where I was born, and where I lived for a while, where my mom grew up, where my uncle grew up, where my cousins are.
Right.
I speak, I understand, but they can hear that, like, my sh isn't quite right, because it's my mom's sh for me instead of me shamo, it's me jamo, because that's how I learned it from my mom.
Right.
So they can tell that between the language and my appearance and my way of moving, they can tell I'm not from there. I mean, Czechoslovakia, I don't even speak Czech. I can sing some Christmas carols and that's it. So I end up feeling this. They're all part of me, and they're also not fully me. You can kind of be in between all of these places.
Right, in between. Now,
which is also part of Latino identity.
Absolutely.
In between.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. And just for the record, though, to illustrate, though, my mom. One of these days, I'm going to show you a picture of my mom. And you do have green eyes, right? Is it green or blue eyes? Green eyes.
Yeah.
Okay. My mom looks very similar to you,
really?
Except for the eyes. But if I were to show you a picture of my mom when she was young, you would be surprised. So, that to say that, you know, Latinos come in all colors, in all shapes, in all big, you know. And that's often the stereotype. They tend to think that Latinos are only dark skin, short, right? But no, you're going to find Latinos that are very, and everywhere, even in Spain, you know, when you look at people from northern Spain, southern Spain, different people, right?
Yeah.
But at the end, we're all Latinos. I mean, I don't know if Spanish people will identify as Latino. We had someone here in the show that was from Spain.
Oh.
Yeah, Marta. You probably know Marta, graduate student. Marta.
Batis,
No, Marta.
I know Marta.
Marta Rocatin.
Oh, yes.
Marta Batis is from Mexico.
Oh, that's right. She's from Mexico.
Yeah, she's from Mexico. But yeah, so I'm going to show you a picture of my mom one of these days.
Okay, I would love to see that.
Tell me what you think.
And my LAS class just had a conversation yesterday about the term Latino and how it's limited. And
it's changed a lot.
It's changed, and it's a diasporic. I mean, if you're in Argentina, no one's going to say I'm Latino. They'll say I'm Argentine, or maybe from where they're from.
Right,
so.
right.
And also Latin America is a place of a lot of immigration.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Yeah, totally. So out of all the courses that you teach, do you have like a favorite one, maybe, you know?
Oh, I don't know. I know it's difficult. To say that.
I know, but
because I teach some Spanish literature courses as well, which are really fun. What I always say is, for me, the favorite courses are the ones that have the students who are most committed.
Right.
I don't, it doesn't even mean that they're necessarily I care about I like working with students who like what we're working on and want to to engage with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so if students are putting in the effort, then I'm really happy with the course.
Right, right.
So I think that's, and then what I find consistently, again, I've been involved in LAS for many years, consistently in LAS, and I have to say I'm less familiar with the Spanish courses because I haven't been as involved in them for as long, but LAS students consistently care about the material.
Okay.
And they care about learning and they want to be involved and they do the work. And so then I really love the LAS courses because the students are committed.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes in Spanish, in my experience, I've seen, not everybody, of course, but sometimes Spanish is taken as like on the side.
Mm-hmm.
They take like 6 courses or 5, and then they're like, oh, I still have space for another one. And then they come to a language class, and then they realize that it's a lot of work, right?
Yes.
Learning a language is not an easy thing. You have to invest a lot of time. You have to be very patient. And I often compare it with going to the gym.
Yes.
You want to achieve those results, you have to go to the gym and eat well. So sometimes they get disappointed. They are not able to keep up with the pace of the course. But don't get discouraged. Just know that you have to work hard with anything else.
They say your brain is a muscle too. So in the same way, you're not going to be a great basketball player if you don't practice. You're not going to be. I mean, that's also true, I think, for analytical skills. If you don't practice them, you don't develop them. I mean, and I've had wonderful students in the other courses too. I think just the average is different because of that reason, that people have this impression that a Spanish language course will be very easy.
Right.
And then it's not, and then they stop coming to class, and then you feel like, am I doing something wrong? Are they bored in my class? What's happening?
Yes. Right. Now, you speak German a little bit?
A little, yeah.
Okay. So would you say that German is definitely more challenging than Spanish?
No.
No.
But I grew up hearing it, so that
Okay.
makes it, but I think actually Yucatec Mayan is the most difficult. I've studied German, I've studied Spanish, I've studied Catalan, I've studied Mandarin.
Mandarin.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I spent a year in China. So
In
I was
China?
studying.
Oh, wow. What part of China?
I was in Xi'an.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But Yucatec Mayan was the hardest for me.
Okay. Why? Could you tell us why was it that difficult?
First, it took me a very long time to understand when words began and ended. It just sounded like a blur of sounds, and I wasn't hearing distinctions.
Mm-hmm.
And then the structure is completely different from any other language I've learned.
Okay.
Even Mandarin, I mean, I know the structures are different, but it's still, the basic sentence is still subject, verb, object. And in Maya, it was temporal marker, pronoun, verb, end of the pronoun, subject. So, and I didn't understand the concept of temporal marker for a long time. So I think because the structure was so different,
Right.
that was why it was the hardest.
Okay. Now, are you able to communicate a little bit, would you say, in Yucatec? You are.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, hacha.
Okay. Perfect. Sounds good.
Hupit.
Okay, great. One of the things that I actually would like to learn an indigenous language of my country, Mexico. That's on my list. I would like to learn Nahuatl, of course. That would be interesting to learn. I know how to say chocolatl, popocatépetl, aguacatl. All of those words that end with a TL have been some of the words that we have given to other languages, right?
Cenote.
Cenote. There you go. Yeah. So lots of interesting things.
Oh, it's really fun, and it gives you a completely different perspective. It's really, and on your own country and your own history.
Exactly. LAS, Latin American Studies.
Yes.
There aren't that many programs of Latin American Studies in Canada, at least. Is that correct?
Not that many. No, not that many. I'm trying to remember now where they are. I'm drawing a blank, to be honest.
Right? Yeah, me too. Like,
because also some existed, but then they closed.
True.
So now I'm not quite sure anymore.
And that's where I'm trying to go. Unfortunately, some programs have been closing, right? Language departments, Spanish, other languages are closing. What is your take on that? Do you think that there will be a time where languages will not be taught anymore at the university level?
I really hope not.
Right, we hope not. Otherwise, right, it'll be complicated. But
well, it would be a huge loss because translation, understanding something in translation is not the same as understanding it in its actual source language. Like, there are jokes in Maya that you just don't you can't translate them. I mean, you can translate the words, you can get the idea, but the humor of it doesn't come across. The same happens in Spanish.
Exactly.
Learning a language is learning about a culture and learning about a way of thinking, and it expands your mind in a way that you can't get in any other way. So I think it's not only about being able to communicate where is the store, which is, we have to start there, but it's actually much more complicated, and understanding the beauty of a language. So I think we agree on this probably.
Totally. And we were able to connect, right, with people, right? So English is my second language, but the fact that I teach Spanish, for example, doesn't mean that I don't need to interact in English, right? As a matter of fact, if I hadn't learned English, I wouldn't have been able to pass the interview, for example, to apply for a job, to apply for a job here at UofT. Those are not in Spanish, even if you get to teach Spanish here at the university. One time I was coming back to Canada from Mexico, and as soon as we got off from the plane, there was the border agent, very unusual, but there was a border agent at the end of the tunnel, once you get off from the plane. And then he was asking everybody to show their passports. So I showed my passport. At that time, I was still a Mexican citizenship. I mean, I was traveling with my Mexican passport. I was not a Canadian citizen yet. So I showed it, and they started asking me, what are you doing in Canada? I had a work permit at that time. And then I said, well, I work. I teach at the University of Toronto, blah, blah, blah. And what do you teach? And I said, Spanish. And then he said, oh, of course. That to say that the fact that I am a native speaker of Spanish doesn't mean that I can only teach Spanish, right? So I just thought that was, interesting to say the least.
And telling, I think they would have said, really? If it had been me?
Could you imagine? Exactly. So, have you caught people like maybe saying stuff they were not supposed to because they didn't think that you could understand?
Yeah.
Here in Toronto or somewhere else?
Not so much in Toronto, because I think in Toronto they know that people around speak English.
Right.
I'm sorry, not that they speak. They know that it's very multicultural here, so people don't tend to assume as much. At least I think. At least not, and also not with Spanish, which is fairly well known. I mean, maybe for Yucatec Mayan, they might be saying something about me, but I don't hear that much in Toronto.
Right.
In Mexico,
really?
Actually, last time I was there, I went to Teotihuacan, and there are many people who are selling things on the site, walking around, asking you, and if they ask me, I say no, thank you, and no gracias, and I keep going.
Right.
And one person must have been very frustrated, and as I was walking away, said, what did he say? Mujer mala.
Mujer mala.
Mujer mala, yeah. And I had just said no gracias, no, like nothing more.
Right.
But mujer mala. And I don't know, I think I had just been asked by so many people that I got annoyed by this reaction, and I didn't even think about it. I turned around and say, che, like very Argentine, che, no soy mujer mala, solo porque no quiero comprar esas cosas. Claro. And then I kept walking, and he looked so shocked. Like,
Lesson learned, I hope. Oh, mis paisanos, come on, you know better. You should know better. Now
but
they know.
I also have traveled most in Mexico, so maybe it would happen to me elsewhere, and I just haven't had the experience yet.
Right. When was the last time you were in Mexico, by the way?
The most recent trip was last May, so almost a year ago now.
Okay.
And really, it was just because I've never been to Mexico City, and I wanted to go to Mexico City, and I wanted to celebrate my previous year.
Nice.
So I went with a friend.
Awesome. How long did you stay there?
Just for a week.
Okay.
Yeah, so not very long.
Nice.
10 days maybe.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Now, how would you describe Mexico City to someone that is watching us here in Canada, maybe, and they're wanting to go, but they may be afraid of going to this big city, massive city?
It's massive. Yeah. I loved it.
You loved it, right?
I loved it. It was amazing. I've also spent many years teaching about it and never been there. So I was so excited to see, Teotihuacan, Tenochtitlan, to go to see the murals by Diego Rivera. It was amazing.
Yes.
To go to the Archaeological Museum, right, and to see all the. I mean, they have the skeleton from. now I'm blanking out again.
That's okay.
Tika, is it Tika? No, not Tikal. But anyway, they have the skeleton. I've been to the site where he was buried, but didn't get to see him because he was in the museo.
Right.
So, Palak.
Palak.
So I found it really incredible, and I mean, if you go to the downtown area where the Palacio de Bellas Artes is,
El Zócalo.
It's very busy, and
Yes, it is.
for us, it happened that there was a strike. There was a teacher strike happening right when we went, so the Zócalo was covered in tents and people, and the government buildings were closed. But it was interesting.
Right.
I don't know. I didn't find it intimidating, or I didn't find it unsafe. The metro was really easy, and also there's we avoided going during rush hours.
Yes, I was gonna say.
Yeah, we avoided rush hour.
I've only done it once, and that was probably the last, because that was something else. Yeah.
Well, but they also have the 2 cars at the front that are dedicated to women.
Yeah,
and
for you would be okay, but
so
yeah.
that was quite nice.
Yeah.
It was odd when I went on one of the other cars, because then I was one of the only women, and it felt very strange, but it meant that I could go into less crowded areas.
Right.
But no, I mean, I think it's so rich. It's so beautiful. Luckily, I went with a friend who really is interested in restaurants, so she guided us to good places to eat as well,
Nice.
which I
Okay.
would have probably not done as much because I would have not spent the time researching.
Right. What
but
did
no,
you
I
try
loved
in
it.
terms of food? What did you eat there? Do you remember?
We had sopa.
Sopa azteca, caldo tlalpeño.
No, we had sopa azteca.
Uh-huh.
We had. I went to. What is it called? I'm blanking out now on all these words. The famous La Michoacana.
La
That was the
Michoacana.
first thing I went
Okay,
to.
okay,
La
okay.
Michoacana, because I loved ice cream.
Ice cream, yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
No, I think we tried different things. But we tried. I'm trying to remember now what we had. This doesn't mean I didn't do the research and I'm not as invested. I like eating the food,
Right.
but guacamole, of course. We went to a place that had barbecue.
Mm-hmm.
That was in Roma.
Mm-hmm.
We sopa de tortilla. Is that what?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sopa de tortilla, very
Sopa de
typical.
limon.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, we went on a food tour, so then we tried a lot of different things. We
Nice.
had one of the restaurants was a Yucatec Mayan restaurant,
Okay.
so that was really fun. We had panuchos.
Panuchos.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and what else did we have? We went to chocolate. I love. We went to a
Okay.
place with really good chocolate.
Okay.
We had flautas. We had. I wrote it all down. I should have brought my list because I knew I wasn't going to remember. So I wrote it down so that I would remember later on.
How about tequila? Did you have any tequila?
I'm not
Mezcal?
a drinker.
You're not a
I'm
drinker at all?
No.
Okay,
So I
okay.
bought some mezcal to bring back to my mom
Right,
because she likes
right.
it, and she said it was really good. But
Okay.
I'm not a drinker.
Right, right. Awesome.
I go for chocolate and gelato.
Chocolate. That's enough. That's good. Would
We
you?
did have. Sorry, we
It's
did
okay.
have. What's the drink? I keep forgetting all my words. The drink that's made from cactus.
The mezcal?
No, not mezcal.
The-
The one that's on the street often. That's fermented. I'll remember later. I'm sure.
Tepache.
No, it's we on this food store we stopped under a bridge and there was somebody who was selling it, and they had different flavors and different ages.
Pulque.
Pulque, yes, pulque.
Yes, pulque.
Yeah.
How did you like that?
Well,
Interesting.
it was interesting.
I'm
yeah.
not into that, so don't feel bad.
I'm just not that much into. I like the
Right.
younger one that was less alcoholic, but once I
Okay.
got alcoholic, I don't like the taste of alcohol.
I
So
see.
then,
I see.
but it was fun to try.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Now, the Mexico City is going through a lot of gentrification, right? A few years ago, before the pandemic, you could have a nice apartment, fairly affordable in places like Roma, Condesa. And now what is happening? Well, a lot of people are being kicked out of their places. Lots of restaurants that have been there for many generations.
Mhm.
They're kicking them out, and they are bringing in tourism, massive tourism. What do you think of that?
I mean, it's a problem happening in many places, I
Including
think.
here,
Yeah,
right?
including here. And I don't really know. I mean, I was one of those tourists.
Did you stay in Condesa
In Roma.
in Roma,
yeah.
Roma Norte?
In Roma Norte, yeah.
Roma
Because
Norte.
again, my friend kind of did all the research, and I was really overwhelmed with courses, so she planned it all, and I just went along.
But you're a prof at with LAS, so you're okay.
To go
To go there, just
and researching in
stay
Mexico.
there.
So.
Of course, you were researching too. And
Yeah. Yeah, I saw the Piedra del Sol. I was so excited.
right.
But I don't know. You know, it brings income and it brings
It does.
business.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like you said, it ejects people from their own living spaces, and it changes the nature of a city and of a neighborhood. So I think it's really complicated.
It is complicated. Yeah, it is complicated. I think that definitely it needs to be controlled, right? The government needs to step in. You cannot just leave it all to like people figuring it out.
Yeah.
I mean, we're certainly seeing it here. We've seen it here in Toronto, in big cities, Vancouver, for example, for quite some time. So this is not just specific to Mexico City, Toronto.
No.
It's happening all around the world, right? But nonetheless, it is very problematic.
And I was in a class where somebody said, you know, we were talking about, actually the Indigenous Realities class, we were talking about the impacts of tourism on local communities and that same problem of, you know, not being able to live in one's own space and then also being kind of invaded by tourists, but then also the incomes that is possible from it. And she was saying, well, wait, what if we just didn't do tourism? You know, it's our choice as people who are doing the tourism. We could choose not to do it and not impact these communities. And I thought that's true. You know, we could be more careful on our end of where we go, how we go, when we go. You know, be more cautious about how we do this, or maybe not do it at all. But not doing it at all is also a problem because of the income, but also because of our own learning. I mean, how do we learn about other people's perspectives and other people's realities? We can to an extent from movies, from reading, from listening to things, but it's not the same as actually being there.
Right.
So there are things about, like when I think about Yucatec Mayan texts that I've read, there are things I didn't understand until I was there and saw, oh, this is because there are no rivers here. And I could have read about that, but I didn't understand the reality of it until I was there.
Right.
Or, you know, this is how houses look. And I had read, you know, they went home and they did this and they did that and they lay in their hammock. Well, now I understand really what that means.
Right. Exactly.
And I couldn't quite imagine it until I saw it. So I don't know. It's really tricky.
It is. Yeah. Would you live in Mexico City though?
Yes.
You would live there,
but not in the center.
Okay.
I can't. It's a bit too crazy in the center with everyone screaming, and it's really fun to go and be there, but I don't think I could be there all the time.
Yes, like Zócalo around Zócalo and all of it's too much.
It's too much, yeah.
But the overall, like Mexico City, did not intimidate you to the point of saying, really, okay.
No, and I went to see the Virgen de Guadalupe, and later I was told, oh, that's kind of not a great area. I felt fine.
Okay.
I mean,
I've never been there.
You've never been there?
Never been there. I've been to Mexico City, but not to that place. And actually, I have a story. Many years ago, I went to Ecuador, and then with a friend, we went on a bus all the way to the border with Colombia.
Oh, wow.
I think there's a town called there Pasto, Colombia, or Pasto, Ecuador. There's a city called Pasto. And I went and got a haircut. And there was a very nice lady was cutting my hair, and then she told me that her son was in jail, and that if I could please go to see La Virgen de Guadalupe in Mexico City. And she gave me a picture of La Virgen de Guadalupe, una estampilla, and she wrote a message on the back of it, you know, asking La Virgen de Guadalupe for her son's release from prison. And I still have to do that. So I really need to do that. Thank you for bringing this up, because I have that in my wallet. So on my next trip to Mexico City, I really need to do that. It's not that I didn't want to do it. It's just that, you know, life sometimes gets too busy and
it's a bit out of the way.
It is, right?
It's you have to make a point to go there. It's not, you won't pass it on your way to something else very easily.
How did you get there though? Did you take subway? You took the subway. Okay.
It was a long subway ride,
but you were with other people, right?
No, I just went on my own. My friend needed a break and was not so interested, so I just went myself.
Okay. And no issues? There you go.
I
You
mean,
see?
it was.
You see?
I
It's
took, I
not
took
a.
the subway. I got out. I had looked at the map before, and I don't like to go with my phone out.
Of course.
Even here, I don't
Even
like to go.
here,
No, I
right?
don't. I
Right.
also just I like to use my brain to figure out where I am. But also you can see the big cathedral from like where I got at. I think I turned a corner and there I could see it, so I knew I didn't even have to look. I could just go in that direction, and I got to
Right.
it.
That's
And then
great.
yeah, it was amazing. There's multiple different sites, like
Mhm.
different churches, and I could hear people singing from the hill, like people who were up on Chapaz, and on the hill where Juan Diego
Juan
saw
Diego,
the Virgin. Then I could hear them singing from below,
Right.
and yeah, it was really
Amazing.
It was amazing.
Wow. Very,
It
very
was really-
nice.
It was very worthwhile, and yeah, I didn't feel at all intimidated.
Right.
I mean, I just walked along, and
Awesome. Yeah, because oftentimes you hear that that area is, like, things happen, but things
I
happen
was-
here in Toronto too.
I mean, I was there in the daytime, and I've lived in a few different places in Toronto, and there's been a shooting around the corner in one place, and that was in the Annex. There was a shooting in the corner where I was in Sherbourne. I used to be at Dundas at one point, and there was a stabbing. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Things happen
Yeah.
everywhere, right? Yeah. Now, out of all the archaeological sites that you've been to in Mexico City, what is your favorite one?
In Mexico
Mhm.
City,
I'm sorry, in all the country, in Mexico overall.
in all the country.
Yes. Because when I went to Chichen Itza, I have to tell you that you've never been there?
I've been there,
You've
but
been
it's
there?
not.
I was disappointed.
Yeah.
Very disappointed.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see why. I mean, it's very Chichen Itza is like the main tourist ruin, right? I mean, in Yucatan, so it's not. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
But it's if you want sort of a more personal experience.
mhm.
I've been to some in Campeche
Okay.
that have fewer people, are still more overgrown. There was one that I went to where my friend and I were we're walking on the path to get to the different temples, and we kept seeing one on the map that we could not find. And apparently, I mean, we just walked and walked and walked and walked, and we could not find it. And eventually, we figured out it was just hidden in the trees. We had been passing it repeatedly, and we just hadn't seen it because of all the trees that
Of
were
course.
growing there.
Right.
So that was, I think, much more intimate than Chichen Itza. Chichen
Yeah.
Itza is beautiful.
It is beautiful.
And it's a good introduction, but
Yeah.
but if you want something kind of more intimate, more personal, with more space, I would go to Campeche. Actually,
Campeche,
yeah.
right. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
let's go to Campeche. I haven't
Yeah.
been there, so
Okay.
I'm gonna go there.
I'm sure there's others in Yucatan too, and I just haven't been there. But I think Yucatan is just better known than Campeche.
Yeah.
And also, there's amazing cenotes. Like we went caving at one point, and then you're covered in all the mud and everything.
Mhm.
And we asked, is there anywhere we can go to wash off? And someone said, oh, if you go to this person's house, ask them. They have a cenote in their backyard. They'll let you go in there for I don't know how many pesos.
Right.
And then you had to kind of climb down into this cave and go into the cenote to wash up.
Right.
It was really amazing.
Awesome.
So,
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, Paula. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Sometimes, even though we work in the same place,
Yes.
we don't get to see each other often. We're all so busy doing our own thing, right? But this is also a wonderful opportunity to connect, right, amongst ourselves. So,
Es muy
muchas
bueno.
gracias.
Muchas gracias a ustedes dos y por tenerme en el podcast.
Con todo gusto, Paula. Thank you all very much for watching this episode. And we'll see you next episode of More Than Tequila. Hasta luego.